Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 1226, 1226, Thursday, August the 20th, 2020. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, let's go ahead and cover the guilty plea of Kevin Clinesmith, which was yesterday, August the 19th. So Kevin Clinesmith has pled guilty to one count of making false statements. He was asked to surrender his passport. He's only allowed to travel within the United States within a limited area, like 4 or 5 states around where he lives in Virginia. Anything beyond that, he must get permission. His sentencing will be set for December the 10th at 11 o'clock a.m. in the Washington, D.C. court. Judge Boasberg has accepted Clinesmith's guilty plea. Various reporters were in the courtroom. Catherine Herridge was there. I believe Chuck Ross was there. I believe Jerry Dunleavy was there. The maximum penalty for this crime is 5 years, but no one ever does 5 years. In fact, the average sentencing penalty is somewhere between 0 and 6 months. So on December the 10th, when they go back for the sentencing hearing, that's when the prosecutor will likely give their sentencing recommendation, what they believe that the court should sentence Clinesmith to. And we certainly hope that they'll be calling for jail time. Judge Boasberg also noted in the hearings that there was a 10-page plea agreement. A 10-page plea agreement, which has not been made public yet. Which has not been made public yet. The plea agreement, Clinesmith agreed, was not did not involve any threats or coercion. The plea agreement says that the government will not prosecute him for anything else listed in the statement of offense and will not detain him between now and sentencing. Now, I think that's interesting because the charging document was only 5 pages and the plea agreement is 10 pages. Now, I don't know if that's unusual or if that's typical. Maybe. Our good friend Douglas can, he is a lawyer, maybe Douglas can tell us whether or not it's unusual to have a 10-page plea agreement when the charging statement itself was only 5 pages. For a crime where the person pleads guilty, it's a 1001 crime, which is considered a fairly standard low-level crime of making a false statement or, in his particular case, editing a document or changing a document to change the nature of the evidence. I don't know, Douglas, is that unusual to have a 10-page plea agreement in a case like this? Jerry Dunleavy reporting that the hearing only took 15 minutes. And I don't even believe that he appeared in person. I believe it was done through like a teleconference or something. Anthony Scarpelli, the U.S. attorney working for the John Durham team, who is out of the District of Criminals. He's the one who specializes in RICO cases. He was there representing Durham and the government, along with one other FBI agent, whose name we do not know. Now, let's keep in mind, something else that occurred prior to beginning the hearing. Judge Collier did address the fact that he is the chief FISA court judge now, and he did offer both the prosecution and the defense that if they had a problem with the fact that he is a FISA court judge, and that this issue does dovetail into a situation where this was evidence or a document that was changed and sent to the FISA court. Boasberg said that as far as he's concerned, this particular case is being filed as a criminal case, and it's not an issue with the FISA court itself, and therefore he didn't feel that he would need to recuse. But he did offer both the defense and the prosecution that if they felt that he should recuse himself, that he would. Neither the defense or the prosecution thought that he needed to recuse, so he went ahead and heard the case. Now, let's keep in mind that the last thing Judge Collier did before leaving and turning it over to Boasberg was that she had ordered the FBI to produce all the information that was collected from the Carter Page wire taps. All the information collected from the Carter Page wire taps. And that fell to Christopher No Shit Sherlock Ray to produce that evidence or that information. And at this point, I have not heard, nor have I heard anybody report on whether or not there's a time frame. I'm sure there is, or whether or not that has happened yet, or No Shit Sherlock Ray is working on that. I don't know. But I do know that Judge Collier, on her way out the door, ordered the FBI to produce all the information that was produced as a result of the Carter Page wire taps. That's very important. I have to assume that Durham is patiently or eagerly, he's awaiting that, would be my guess. I mean, if I were on this case, I was one of the U.S. attorneys, that is absolutely one thing I would be very, very interested in looking at. What information they gathered from the Carter Page wire taps. Because that goes directly to the motive. Because the DOJ, the FBI are saying, well, we just, Carter Page, we thought he may have been, may have been working with the Russians or whatever. This wasn't spying on the Trump campaign. This is what they're all going to say. They weren't spying on the Trump campaign. This is specifically Carter Page. He had left the Trump campaign, and therefore it was just about Carter Page. The evidence that they collected from the Carter Page FISA warrants will tell us exactly who and what they were investigating in relation to the Carter Page FISA. I certainly would assume that Durham and whoever the investigators are interested, very interested, in seeing that those documents, that evidence. Should also be noted that Jerry Dunleavy, in his story, he says that that when asked how he was pleading, he pled guilty, but Clinesmith is also trying to say that he's pleading guilty to intentionally changing the wording or adding some wording to change what the document said, but he's also saying to the judge that he believed that what he changed it to was true. So I guess the only thing we can gather from that is that he's trying to say that, well, the CIA told me he was, one of their operational assets or what have you, but I didn't believe them or something. It's not really been clarified exactly what he means by that. But I think it probably doesn't matter. He's pled guilty to it. He's pled guilty to exactly what he did. And again, there was a 10-page cooperation agreement, so obviously Durham is satisfied. I think obviously his immediate supervisor is his now wife, who he was having an affair with at that time, Sally Moyer. And he was working with the Crossfire Hurricane team, and of course that was being headed up by Peter's Been Stroking Us. He was said to have been communicating mostly with Lisa Page. So I would assume all them people are probably in the crosshairs. And of course, because he was on the Mueller team, I'm sure that Durham is going to have, or actually this will be, what's his name, Jeff, what's his name, from Missouri, Jeff Jensen. He's the one who's looking into the Mueller witch hunt part of the coup. So I imagine at some point Jeff Jennings would be interested in talking to Clinesmith to find out what the nature was of the investigation when he was working for the Mueller team. What sort of things were they pursuing? What sort of avenues were they going down? What sort of conversation? What was the attitude, the general nature? My guess is that those will be questions that probably Clinesmith will be looking at. Again, 10-page plea deal, but a plea agreement, and it said in the story that it has not been made public yet, which I assume means that we can expect that at some point it will be made public. And my guess is that will occur after he is sentenced. Be my guess. I don't know. Again, good question for Douglas. Okay, so that's about all we have on the Kevin Clinesmith situation. Nothing unusual happening other than a fairly lengthy plea agreement. And everything else apparently is pretty much normal for this type of a hearing, this type of a situation. So we'll find out in December if Clinesmith serves any time, and he certainly should serve some time in jail. But it'll depend. I guess we'll find out when we see the plea agreement how much he was willing to give up. Probably a lot, because they could have hit him with 3 or 4 other felonies, which would have been far more severe than this. And his lawyer did mention in the hearings that his client had been aware of his situation for quite some time, which suggests to me that maybe his lawyer is saying that his client has known that he was going to be charged and was likely going to cooperate for quite some time. I think that's what he means. So it's exactly what I thought, that we're getting the we got the charge last week, but likely the decision to charge him was made months ago or weeks ago at least, and during that time period he's probably already been cooperating. My guess is that they've probably pretty much gotten everything out of him that they think they're going to get, and that they're done with him. That would be my guess, that they're pretty much done with him. Now if they need to, they could probably call him back, but my guess is that this came at the end of the cooperation. It's not the beginning of when he's going to start cooperating. I think he's already been cooperating, and that's when they probably once he gave them everything that he agreed to give them, then they probably had an indictment. Maybe it was sealed, or maybe they just sat on it and told him, well, we won't indict you till after we're done talking, but we're going to indict you, and what we're going to indict you on will depend on how much you give us. Probably something like that. Let's move on to the next story. We learn now that, of course, we know the Senate Intelligence Committee released their 5th of 5 reports, finalizing their so-called investigation into Russian collusion, Trump-Russia collusion, whatever you want to talk about. Of course, we know it's the Senate Intelligence Committee. It's a big scam, total bullshit. We talked yesterday about their findings, not anything surprising. But we did learn from today, that during the interviews by the Senate Intelligence Committee, one of the people they interviewed was Jonathan Weiner. Now, that comes into play because Lindsey Graham has stated that Jonathan Weiner is going to be one of the people he's going to talk to. Ron Johnson is going to be talking to Jonathan Weiner. And it appears that he was very shifty in his interview with the Senate Intelligence Committee. He told the Senate Intelligence Committee that Christopher Steele contacted him immediately after the dossier was released, and that Steele asked him to destroy all records, including all their records of all their conversations. That would have been in January 2017. We also learned that the first time that Weiner spoke with the Senate Intelligence Committee, and he was asked about setting up the meeting with Christopher Steele and Kathleen Kvalik at the State Department. He denied that, but they called him back a second time and produced for him State Department visitor logs, which proved the opposite. Now, instead of him being charged with lying to the Senate Intelligence Committee, they showed him the log and they allowed him to change or correct his statement. Roger Stone wasn't allowed to change or correct his statement, was he? Weiner also admitted to the Senate Intelligence Committee that he has represented probably dozens, many, he says, pro-Putin Russian clients. He admits to representing pro-Putin Russian clients. Apparently, he was not very forthcoming in a lot of ways. Didn't volunteer any information, had to be pretty much extracted from him. He didn't like talking much about the fact that he was an intermediary between Blumenthal and Cody Shearer with that dossier, which he passed to Christopher Steele and Victoria Nuland. He didn't want to talk much about Oleg Deripaska, who he also has some sort of a relationship with as far as representation and knowledge of things he's involved in. He didn't want to talk very much about anything. So he's a shady character. Now, I imagine that Ron Johnson's going to be reviewing the testimonies, of which there are 2 or 3, because he was questioned 2 to 3 times. Once, then he was brought back, and I think he was brought back a 3rd time. So I imagine that they'll want to dig into that a little bit, and we'll find out more. Yeah. Okay, so there you go. That's all we have going on today as in regards to the Spygate story. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. See you. Bye.